Dominic Cole, the most efficient hitman for the Vane Syndicate, is ordered to execute Maya Reed, a woman who supposedly witnessed a high-level transaction. In a dark alley, with his gun pressed to her temple, Dominic sees a small phoenix tattoo on his wrist, a mark that belongs to a girl he thought he saved from a burning building 15 years ago, the very event that forced him into a life of debt to the Mafia. Realizing Maya is the sister he swore to protect, Dominic fakes her death, defying his threatening boss, Victor Vane. As they go on the run, Maya reveals she wasn't a witness, but a target because of her father's hidden debt. The story follows Dominic as he shifts from an unfeeling weapon to a desperate protector, eventually leading to a final showdown where he must dismantle the syndicate he helped build to ensure Maya's freedom. Hook, the alleyway was a throat of brick and shadow, choking on the sound of the falling rain. Dominic Cole stood as still as a statue, the charcoal pinstripe of his suit a sharp contrast to the grime of the walls. His right hand, encased in a black tactical glove, was steady as a surgeon's as he pressed the cold muzzle of his suppressed pistol against Maya Reed's temple. Maya's breath came in jagged, pathetic hits. Her olive green hoodie was plastered to her skin, her face a mask of salt and rain. She looked like a ghost already. In the background, standing near the mouth of the alley, the Mafia boss, Victor Vane, watched with arms crossed. He didn't say a word, but his presence was a heavy weight, a silent command to finish the job. Dominic's finger began its practiced squeeze on the trigger. He had done this 100 times. But as Maya's hands flew up to her face in a final, instinctive plea, her sleeve slipped. The flickering neon sign from the bar across the street flashed a violent blue, illuminating her wrist. Dominic's heart hits his ribs like a hammer. There, etched in faded black ink, was a small, unmistakable phoenix. He knew every line of that tattoo. He had watched the needle pierce her skin 15 years ago, a promise of rebirth after he had dragged her from the wreckage of a burning tenement. He didn't fire. He couldn't. The ghost of the syndicate had just hit a wall he couldn't climb over. "What are you waiting for, Dominic?" Victor's voice drifted from the shadows, smooth and dangerous as silk over a blade. She saw the exchange. "Close the book." Dominic's mind raced at 1,000 miles per hour while his body remained frozen. If he didn't shoot, Victor would kill them both. If he did, he'd be killing the only thing that proved he was once a human being. "She's moving too much," Dominic gritted out, his voice a gravelly lie. "Then hold her still," Victor snapped. Dominic looked into Maya's eyes. She saw the recognition in him. She saw the man who had saved her once before. "Don't scream," Dominic whispered, so low only she could hear. In one fluid motion, Dominic pivoted. He didn't pull the trigger on his head, he grabbed her by the throat, slamming her back against the brick wall with enough force to make it look real. As he did, he fired a single shot into the soft mortar inches from her ear. "No. Please." Maya screamed, a genuine, terrified sound that masked the thwip of the silenced round hitting the wall. "She's trying to run." Dominic roared back at Victor. He grabbed a handful of her hoodie and shoved her toward a side door, a service entrance he knew led to the basement of a nearby kitchen. "Dominic, wait," Victor started, stepping forward, his eyes narrowing in suspicion. "I'll finish it inside." "Stay back." Dominic shouted, throwing Maya through the door and diving in after her. He slammed the heavy steel bolt home just as Victor's heavy footsteps reached the door. They were in a dark, damp hallway smelling of grease and old stone. Maya was trembling, staring at him as if he were a monster who had grown a halo. The fire. You're the boy from the fire." Dominic checked his magazine, his eyes darting to the door as Victor began to pound on the steel. "That boy died in the fire, Maya. Now, keep your mouth shut and run. If they catch us, there won't be a second miracle." The rain had turned into a relentless deluge by the time Dominic's black sedan screeched into the gravel driveway of a nondescript cabin hidden deep within the woods of the Hudson Valley. This was a dead site, a location not even Victor Vane knew existed. Dominic killed the engine. The silence that followed was heavy, broken only by the ticking of the cooling metal and Maya's erratic breathing. "Get out," Dominic commanded, his voice returning to his professional, flat tone. Maya hesitated, her eyes darting to the tactical glove still on her hand. Are you going to? If I wanted you dead, Maya, we'd still be in that alley. Move. Inside, the cabin was cold and smelled of pine and gun oil. Dominic didn't turn on the lights. He moved to the window, peeling back a corner of the curtain to watch the dark tree line. He was waiting for headlights that shouldn't come, but in his world, they always did. Maya stood in the center of the room, looking small in her oversized hoodie. Why did you save me? I saw the way you looked at that tattoo. You haven't seen me in 15 years. You don't owe me anything. Dominic turned, the moonlight catching the scars on his jaw. I didn't save you for you, Maya. I saved you because the night of that fire was the last time I did something that didn't leave a stain. I thought if I let you die tonight, there would be nothing left of Dominic Cole but a suit and a gun. He walked over to a heavy wooden table and threw a burner phone onto it. You said you didn't see the exchange. Why was Victor personally overseeing your execution? I don't know. Maya cried, her voice cracking. I was just leaving my shift at the library. 2 men grabbed me. They kept asking about my father's legacy. My father died years ago, Dominic. Dominic froze. He knew that shipping company. It was a front for Vane's offshore accounts. If Maya's father was a clerk there, he wasn't just filing papers, he was holding the keys to the kingdom. Your father wasn't a clerk, Dominic whispered, a cold realization dawning on him. He was a vault. And Victor thinks you have the combination. Suddenly, the burner phone on the table vibrated. No number appeared. Only a text message. The phoenix doesn't fly. It burns. See you soon, Dominic. Dominic grabbed Maya by the arm. We have to go. Now. They didn't follow us. They tracked the car's built-in GPS. But the car is off. In my world, Dominic said, pulling a spare submachine gun from a hidden floorboard, nothing is ever truly turned off. Especially not a death sentence. As they scrambled into the woods, the sounds of approaching engines tearing through the brush echoed behind them. They took cover behind a massive fallen oak. Tell me about the tattoo, Maya whispered, her teeth chattering from the cold. I remember the smoke. I remember someone carrying me. But the tattoo, my mother told me it was a symbol of our family. Dominic looked at her wrist, then at the glowing embers of the safe house. Victor's men had already arrived and torched the cabin. The orange glow reflected in his eyes. It wasn't just a symbol, Dominic said. Your father knew the syndicate would come for him eventually. He had that tattoo designed with a microprint hidden in the shading of the wings. It's a digital key to an encrypted server. He didn't give you a memory, Maya. He gave you a target on your back. I'm a flash drive? Maya looked at her wrist in horror. You're the only thing standing between Victor Vane and total annihilation, Dominic said, checking the perimeter. And right now, I'm the only thing standing between you and him. Dominic, a voice boomed from a megaphone back at the clearing. It was Du-hun, Victor's lead sweeper. The boss is disappointed. He says you can keep the girl's heart, as long as you bring us the arm. Dominic gripped his weapon, his face hardening into a mask of pure, unadulterated violence. Stay behind me, Maya. I'm going to show them why they call me the Ghost. Back at the Vane Syndicate headquarters, the atmosphere was suffocating. Victor Vane stood before a wall of monitors, his reflection ghost-like against the digital maps of the Hudson Valley. He wasn't screaming, he was eerily still, which was far worse. Dominic has never missed, Victor whispered, more to himself than to the lieutenants behind him. Not at 3 yards. Not in a quiet alley. Sir, the sweepers found the bullet in the alley wall, a technician reported. He pulled the shot. It was intentional. Victor's jaw tightened. He picked up a crystal glass of whiskey and shattered it against the floor. He found a conscience. After 15 years of me feeding him, clothing him, and turning him into a god of the underworld, he chooses a librarian to grow a spine for. He turned to his lead enforcer, a hulking man with a jagged scar across his nose. Dominic knows our protocols. He knows the dead zones. But he's wounded, and he's carrying dead weight. Don't just kill him. Bring me the girl's wrist, and bring me Dominic's head. I want them displayed in the lobby as a reminder that no one is essential. Deep in the woods, the rain had turned the forest floor into a treacherous slurry of mud and dead leaves. Dominic leaned against a birch tree, his face pale. His charcoal suit jacket was off, and his white shirt was soaked in crimson. A stray round from the initial woods skirmish had caught him in the side. "You're bleeding out," Maya whispered, her voice trembling as she tore a strip from her olive-green hoodie. "Dominic, you have to stop. You can't keep running like this." "I stop, we die," Dominic gritted out, flinching as she pressed the fabric against the wound. "Leave me," she said suddenly. Her eyes were fierce, even through the tears. "They want the key on my wrist. If I run one way and you go the other, you can make it to the border. You've done enough. You saved me twice. That's more than anyone ever has." Dominic looked at her, really looked at her. In the dim light of the moon, she didn't look like a victim anymore. She looked like the brave little girl who had clutched her hand in the smoke 15 years ago. "I spent 15 years killing people I didn't know for a man I hated," Dominic said, his voice ragged. "If I leave you now, I will go back to being a ghost. I'd rather die as a man tonight than live another hour as Victor's shadow." He reached out with his gloved hand and gently touched her cheek. "We don't run anymore, Maya. We've been running since the fire. It's time to stop. What are we going to do?" Dominic pulled a tactical tablet from his inner pocket, stolen from one of the sweepers he'd downed. "We aren't going to hide the key. We're going to use it. Your father didn't just hide a ledger, he hid a nuclear option. If we can get to a high-frequency transmitter, we can broadcast the Syndicate's entire server to every major news outlet and federal agency in the world." "Where is the nearest transmitter?" Dominic looked toward the glowing red lights of a cellular array on a distant ridge. "There. But Victor knows that too. He'll be waiting." "Then let's make him regret it," Maya said, her hand closing over the phoenix tattoo on her wrist. The climb to the ridge was a grueling test of endurance. As they reached the base of the massive cellular tower, Dominic hacked into the transmitter's maintenance terminal. His fingers flew across the screen, bypassing layers of Syndicate encryption that he helped maintain for years. "The file, it's opening," Dominic whispered. The screen flickered to life, but it wasn't just spreadsheets or bank account numbers. A video file began to play. A man with graying hair and a kind, tired face appeared, Maya's father. "Maya, if you're seeing this, it means the Phoenix has risen. I didn't just take their money, honey. I took their why. The Vane Syndicate isn't just a mafia, it's a front for a political coup, and Dominic, if you're the one with her, there's something you need to know." The man in the video took a deep breath. "Victor didn't find you after the fire, Dominic. He started it. He burned that building to eliminate a witness, and when he saw you save my daughter, he saw a weapon he could mold. He's been using your guilt to keep you in a cage he built out of ashes." The silence that followed was deafening. Dominic's hand dropped from the terminal, his face a mask of shattered glass. Every kill, every year of service, every drop of blood he had shed for Victor was based on a lie. He hadn't been paying off a debt of salvation, he had been serving the man who murdered his past. "Dominic." Maya reached out, her hand trembling. He didn't move. His eyes stayed fixed on the screen as the upload progress bar hit 85%. "He didn't save me," Dominic whispered, his voice sounding like it was coming from the bottom of a grave. "He broke me so I'd be easier to fix." Suddenly, the night sky was torn apart by the rhythmic thud-thud-thud of a helicopter. A searchlight swept across the ridge, pinning them against the steel of the tower like insects on a board. The helicopter hovered low, the downdraft whipping Maya's hair and the leaves into a frenzy. Armed men rappelled down lines, surrounding the transmitter platform. From the center of the circle, Victor Vane stepped forward, his pinstripe suit perfectly pressed despite the mountain wind. "I always loved that video," Victor said, his voice amplified by the megaphone. Huang was a poet. A bit dramatic, but he understood the power of a good origin story. Don't look so hurt, Dominic. I gave you a career. I gave you a purpose. Dominic stood up slowly. He moved in front of Maya, shielding her from the dozen rifles aimed at his chest. You burned my life before it even started. And I can end it just as easily, Victor reported to his men. The upload, Dominic. Stop it, and I'll let the girl walk. You know I'm a man of my word. Dominic looked at the screen. 94%. He looked at Maya. She wasn't crying anymore. She looked at her wrist, then at him, and gave a small, resolute nod. She knew what had to happen. You're right, Victor, Dominic said, a ghost of a smile touching his scarred lips. You did make me a god of the underworld. But you forgot one thing about gods. Dominic pulled a hidden detonator from his belt, a failsafe he'd rigged to the tower's power core the moment they arrived. They don't like being told what to do. He didn't wait for Victor's reaction. Dominic tackled Maya behind the reinforced concrete base of the tower just as the upload hit 100% and the world turned into a blinding white roar. The explosion didn't just take out the transmitter, it tore a hole in the night. The tower groaned, a skeletal giant collapsing into the tree line, while the shockwave sent Victor's men scattering like autumn leaves. Smoke, thick with the smell of ozone and burning copper, choked the ridge. Dominic emerged from the debris first. His charcoal suit was shredded, the pinstripes barely visible beneath a layer of gray ashen blood. He looked less like a hitman and more like a vengeful spirit rising from the earth. Across the burning wreckage, Victor Vane stood up, coughing, his face streaked with soot. His composition was finally gone. He pulled a silver-plated revolver from his waistband, his hands shaking with a cocktail of rage and adrenaline. You destroyed it all. Victor screamed over the roar of the fire. 20 years. The accounts, the names, the legacy. Do you have any idea what you've done? I fixed the mistake I made 15 years ago, Dominic said. He didn't raise his gun. He just walked toward Victor, each step heavy and deliberate. I stopped being your weapon. Victor fired. The bullet clipped Dominic's shoulder, spinning him around, but he didn't stop. Victor fired again, the round grazing Dominic's thigh. Dominic closed the distance in a blur of motion. He didn't use a bullet, he used his hands, the same hands that had been trained by Victor to be instruments of death. He disarmed the older man with a brutal twist of the wrist, the silver revolver clattering into the fire. It wasn't a choreographed fight. It was a messy, desperate brawl. Dominic slammed Victor against the remains of the concrete base, his tactical glove gripping the boss's throat. You told me the fire was an accident, Dominic hoisted, his face inches from Victor's. You told me the world was cruel and only you could protect me. I made you, great. Victor wheezed, clawing at Dominic's arms. You made me a ghost, Dominic replied. He looked over his shoulder and saw Maya emerging from the smoke, clutching the tablet. The upload was complete. The world now knew Victor's name for all the wrong reasons. But today, I'm the one who decides who lives and who dies. Dominic looked at the fire, then back at Victor. He didn't kill him. Instead, he leaned in and whispered, the police are 5 minutes away. And they have the digital key. You won't die today, Victor. You're going to live long enough to see everything you built turn to ash. He dropped the broken boss into the dirt and turned toward Maya. 6 months later. The coastal town of Monterey was a world away from the rain-soaked alleys of the Vane Syndicate. Here, the air smelled of salt and cypress, not grease and gunpowder. Maya sat at a small cafe overlooking the Pacific, a textbook opened in front of her. She looked healthier, the hollows of her cheeks filled in, her dark hair glowing in the afternoon sun. On her wrist, the phoenix tattoo was still there, but a new design had been added around it, a circle of laurel leaves, symbolizing peace. She felt a presence behind her and smiled before she even turned around. Dominic stood there, wearing a simple linen shirt and jeans. The scars on his jaw were still there, but the ghost was gone. His eyes, once cold and hollow, now held a quiet, flickering warmth. He placed a cup of coffee on her table and sat down. Did you hear the news? Maya asked gently. Dominic nodded. Victor's final appeal was denied this morning. The Phoenix trial is officially over. The syndicate is gone. Maya reached across the table and took her hand, the one that no longer wore a tactical glove. We're actually free, aren't we? Dominic looked out at the horizon, where the sun was beginning to dip into the water, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold, the same colors as the fire, but this time, it wasn't burning anything down. It was just the end of the day. We're free, Dominic said. He squeezed her hand. And for the first time in my life, I don't have to look over my shoulder to see the light. He didn't need a suit. He didn't need a gun. He just needed the girl with the phoenix on her wrist to remind him that even from the ashes, something beautiful can grow.